Charles Lucky Luciano, born as Salvatore Lucania on the 24th of November 1897, came from humble beginnings in the Sicilian village of Lorcara Fridi near Palermo. His father, Antonio, worked as a miner in the harsh conditions of sulfur pits, and their relationship was tense and contentious over the years. His mother, Rosalie, and siblings, Francesca and Giuseppe, completed their family. Another brother, Bartolo, was born later after they moved to New York. During his teenage years, Salvatore decided to change his name to Charles, as he disliked being called Sal or Sally, shortened forms of Salvatore. Over time, newspapers frequently misspelled his surname as Luciano, and this eventually became the name he adopted. He earned the nickname Lucky after surviving a violent gang attack in October 1929, during which he was severely beaten, left unconscious, and permanently scarred. Luciano's challenging early life, marked by poverty and struggle, profoundly shaped his path. These formative years set the foundation for his rise to become one of the most infamous figures in organized crime history. In the spring of 1907, the Lucania family left Sicily and set sail for America during the peak of Italian immigration. Their destination was the crowded Lower East Side of New York City, a neighborhood filled with Italian, Irish, Jewish, and other immigrant communities. When they arrived, the family encountered the harsh realities of immigrant life. The streets were overcrowded, lined with garbage, and plagued by frequent outbreaks of disease. Living conditions were grim, with multiple families packed into small tenements, sharing limited facilities and enduring stifling summer heat. This difficult environment posed challenges for survival and became a breeding ground for crime. Like many others, young Charles experienced the poverty and lack of opportunities that defined immigrant life. He quickly recognized that survival in these conditions required learning to navigate the lawless streets. The Lower East Side became Luciano's school of hard knocks. Here, he watched street gangs operate and absorbed the skills needed to thrive in such a setting. The neighborhood's cultural diversity also shaped his early life, as he formed connections that crossed ethnic lines. These early hardships and adaptations prepared Luciano for his eventual rise as a key figure in New York's criminal underworld. As a teenager living in the Lower East Side, Charles Luciano became immersed in the chaotic world of street gangs. By the late 1910s, numerous groups of children and teenagers operated in the area, picking pockets, robbing vendors, and gambling. Luciano quickly became a part of this underworld, leading his own gang and even extorting protection money from other children on their way to school. One notable encounter shaped Luciano's future. While attempting to collect protection money from a Jewish boy, the young Mayor Lansky refused to comply. Instead of starting a feud, the confrontation led to a deep friendship and partnership that would last a lifetime. Lansky's courage and intelligence impressed Luciano, and together they began building connections that would later become crucial in their rise to power. Luciano's early ventures into crime were marked by ambition and cunning. He and his gang expanded their operations beyond petty theft, venturing into more organized activities such as extortion and low-level gambling. These early experiences taught Luciano the importance of alliances and loyalty, principles that he carried into his later career. The partnership between Luciano and Lansky was more than a friendship. It was a strategic alliance that bridged cultural divides and laid the groundwork for the integration of Italian and Jewish criminal networks. This collaboration became a defining feature of Luciano's early years in the criminal underworld. The introduction of Prohibition through the 18th Amendment in 1920 marked a turning point for Charles Luciano and other rising figures in New York's underworld. Prohibition, which outlawed the sale and distribution of alcohol, created a lucrative opportunity for organized crime. Luciano, alongside his trusted partner Mayor Lansky, quickly recognized the potential and began building a bootlegging empire. Luciano's operations during this period were strategic and efficient. He worked closely with Lansky and other associates to smuggle, produce, and distribute alcohol across the tri-state area. This illegal trade provided immense profits, allowing Luciano to expand his influence and power within the criminal world. His ability to form alliances with both Italian and Jewish gangs set him apart as he successfully navigated a diverse and competitive underworld. During Prohibition, Luciano also became closely associated with prominent crime figures like Joe the Boss Masseria and Arnold Rothstein. Rothstein, known for his calculated and businesslike approach to crime, mentored Luciano and Lansky. Rothstein taught them the importance of maintaining appearances and operating like legitimate businessmen, lessons that would shape Luciano's leadership style. By the late 1920s, Luciano was no longer a small-time criminal. He was a key player in the organized crime scene, with a growing reputation for his business acumen and willingness to take calculated risks. The wealth and power he gained during Prohibition solidified his position as one of the most influential figures in New York's criminal underworld. In the mid-1920s, Charles Luciano and Mayor Lansky solidified their positions in New York's criminal underworld through their alliance with Arnold Rothstein. Known as the Brain, Rothstein was a well-connected and highly intelligent crime figure. Unlike other gangsters, Rothstein approached crime with a calculated and professional mindset, treating it as a business. He became a mentor to Luciano and Lansky, teaching them the importance of organization, strategy, and maintaining a polished public image. Under Rothstein's guidance, Luciano and Lansky refined their operations. They expanded their bootlegging activities, smuggling alcohol into New York from Canada and other sources during Prohibition. Rothstein's connections also opened doors to new ventures, including gambling and narcotics. His mentorship helped them transform from street-level criminals into influential and well-dressed operators who directed operations rather than carrying out crimes themselves. One of Rothstein's key lessons was the value of collaboration and building alliances across ethnic lines. This principle resonated with Luciano, who worked to strengthen ties between Italian and Jewish crime networks. Rothstein also instilled in Luciano the importance of vision and long-term planning. For instance, he once asked Luciano whether he wanted to be seen as a petty criminal or a respected boss. Luciano's decision to aim for the latter would define his career. Rothstein's influence on Luciano and Lansky was transformative, but it was cut short by Rothstein's murder in 1928. Despite his death, the lessons he imparted shaped Luciano's strategic approach to building a criminal empire, positioning him as a leader who valued innovation and collaboration in the ever-evolving world of organized crime. The Castellammarese War, which began in February 1930, was a pivotal moment in Charles Luciano's rise to power. This violent conflict between two rival crime factions in New York, the group led by Joe the Boss Masseria and another headed by Salvatore Maranzano, determined the future of organized crime in the city. Luciano, who was aligned with Masseria, saw the war as an opportunity to reshape the power structure of the mafia. Masseria's leadership style was heavy-handed, and Luciano grew frustrated with his outdated ways. Luciano, along with his allies Mayor Lansky, Vito Genovese, and Frank Costello, decided to switch sides and align with Maranzano. On the 15th of April 1931, Luciano orchestrated the assassination of Masseria at a restaurant in Coney Island. This event marked the end of the Castellammarese War and solidified Luciano's reputation as a strategic thinker. After the war, Maranzano attempted to establish himself as the boss of bosses, a position that required other crime families to pay him tribute. However, Luciano saw this as another outdated practice that hindered progress. He planned and executed Maranzano's assassination in September 1931, ending the era of boss of bosses in New York. Following Maranzano's death, Luciano introduced a more modern system of governance for the mafia. He established the 5 families of New York, creating a decentralized structure where each family operated independently but collaborated on major decisions through a commission. This innovative system reduced infighting and allowed for the expansion of organized crime on a national scale. After dismantling the boss of bosses system in 1931, Charles Luciano established the Mafia Commission, a groundbreaking innovation in organized crime. The commission consisted of leaders from the 5 families of New York, along with representatives from other key crime groups across the United States. This system allowed the mafia to function as a decentralized but collaborative network, reducing internal conflicts and promoting cooperation. Luciano's vision for the commission was rooted in equality and shared power. Rather than allowing one person to dominate, each family retained autonomy, while the commission resolved disputes, coordinated territory boundaries, and approved major decisions. This structure fostered stability within the mafia and paved the way for expansion into new ventures and territories. The end of Prohibition in 1933 marked a significant turning point. With the alcohol trade no longer illegal, the mafia needed to diversify its operations. Under Luciano's leadership, the family shifted their focus to other lucrative enterprises, such as narcotics trafficking, illegal gambling, and labor union racketeering. Luciano also supported expanding mafia influence into new regions, including Las Vegas, where organized crime played a pivotal role in the development of the casino industry. The commission's structure allowed the mafia to function more efficiently than ever before, operating as a syndicate that combined strategic planning with ruthless enforcement. Luciano's leadership during this period demonstrated his ability to adapt to changing circumstances and find new opportunities for profit. His role in creating the commission solidified his legacy as the architect of modern organized crime. In the mid-1930s, Charles Luciano faced mounting legal challenges as law enforcement intensified its efforts to combat organized crime. Special Prosecutor Thomas Dewey targeted Luciano, focusing on his alleged involvement in prostitution and other illegal activities. Despite the lack of substantial evidence, Luciano was arrested in 1936 during a nationwide crackdown on brothels. Dewey presented a case that went beyond the charges of pandering, painting Luciano as the head of a vast criminal enterprise. The trial was swift and controversial. Dewey's tactics, combined with Luciano's less than convincing testimony, led to his conviction. In June 1936, Luciano was sentenced to 30 to 50 years in prison, a term that effectively ended his direct involvement in the day-to-day operations of the mafia. Although Luciano's imprisonment was a significant blow to his career, it did not completely sever his influence over organized crime. During World War II, Luciano's fortunes took an unexpected turn. In 1942, following the sabotage of the Lafayette in New York Harbor, the United States government sought the cooperation of the mafia to secure the docks and prevent further attacks. Luciano, leveraging his connections with the Italian mafia, facilitated a partnership between organized crime and the government in what became known as Operation Underworld. In recognition of his assistance, Luciano's sentence was commuted in 1946. However, as part of the agreement, he was deported to Italy, marking the end of his life in the United States. Despite this, Luciano's legacy in the mafia remained intact. In 1946, Charles Luciano was deported to Italy after his sentence was commuted for aiding the United States government during World War II. Upon arriving in Naples, Luciano faced a new reality. He was far from his former power base in New York, but sought to maintain influence within the world of organized crime. Luciano initially attempted to relocate to Cuba in 1946, where he could oversee operations closer to the United States. In Havana, he organized the Havana Conference, a significant meeting of mafia leaders to discuss various criminal enterprises. including gambling in Las Vegas and the narcotics trade. Despite his efforts to re-establish control, American pressure on Cuba forced Luciano to leave the island in 1947, leading to his permanent return to Italy. Back in Italy, Luciano lived a quieter life compared to his earlier years. He resided in Naples, where he maintained connections with the Italian mafia and occasionally hosted visitors from America. However, his influence waned as the new generation of mafia leaders in the United States took control. Luciano's personal life during this period was marked by tragedy. In 1948, he began a relationship with Igea Lissoni, whom he referred to as the love of his life. The couple lived together in Naples until her untimely death in 1958 from breast cancer. Despite being exiled and under constant surveillance by Italian authorities, Luciano continued to symbolize the golden age of the mafia. His life in exile reflected both the fading of his power and the enduring legacy of his role in shaping modern organized crime. Charles Luciano's final years in Naples were a mixture of reflection and attempts to remain connected to his past. Despite his diminished influence, he remained an icon of organized crime. Luciano spent much of his time living modestly. Although his finances were strained after the Cuban Revolution in 1959 disrupted his income from Havana. Furthermore, as new mafia leaders rose in the United States, his role became increasingly symbolic rather than operational. One of Luciano's last endeavors was his effort to share his life story through a potential film project. In the early 1960s, he collaborated with filmmaker Martin Gauche to create a movie about his life. However, this plan ended abruptly on the 26th of January 1962, when Luciano suffered a fatal heart attack at Naples Capodichino Airport while meeting Gauche. Luciano's legacy as a crime boss remains controversial. He was instrumental in creating the modern structure of organized crime through the Mafia Commission, transforming the mafia into a powerful and far-reaching network. While his actions were marked by violence and illegality, they also demonstrated strategic brilliance and innovation. What do you think about Charles Luciano's legacy? Was he the most important figure in the history of organized crime? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more fascinating stories about history and its key figures. Thank you very much for watching.